Welcome back to another episode of Hobby Time in the Murder Basement, where today I sit down and talk with Kenny from Next Level Painting. You all know him, you all love him. We had a great conversation. Stick around. Kenny, thank you so much for joining me on literally the worst day of the week, Mondays as we know it here in the Murder Basement in St. Louis, Missouri. If you have not watched any of Kenny's Next Level Painting airbrush videos, you're doing it wrong. Easily some of the most comprehensive airbrush work I have seen, and basically everything I've learned from Kenny's work, and also from the Long War podcast fame. Kenny, thank you so much for joining me today here in the Murder Basement.
I truly appreciate it. I can empathize with murder basements. I'm also coming to you from a murder basement.
Yeah, it looked like there was some maybe some movie prop things happening in the background, and after watching the newest Maniac, I always have a healthy distrust of mannequins.
Yeah, no, I'm just actually moved my office off-site to my neighbor's house. I'm renting a little space from them during this whole quarantine shenanigans, just for separation of work and house life, man. It's been crazy, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I bet. It has been really weird losing all sense of community and routine and being stuck in one location. I have definitely had some serious problems with it. Although now I'm 6 weeks in, I've got it all figured out, and I got to go back to work next week. I don't know how I'm going to handle it.
I know, right? It's even for a bunch of introverts who nerd out in their basement anyway, this is shockingly more difficult to adapt to than I thought it would be.
We always joke that we're ready for this, we got this, and I have painted hardly any models to completion. I've painted things, I have made content, but I have also done a lot of what feels like wasted time things.
I think the best COVID meme I saw was the one where it's like he said he was gonna paint all his minis, and then it was it's just Morgan Freeman, and it's he did not.
You did not paint the minis.
You did not. I have painted exactly the same amount of minis I normally paint.
Yeah, I've done a couple really interesting experiments. Yesterday on stream, I was working on this dude from 3D Art Digital, and I dry brushed the entire thing. I did not do any actual painting, and I am actually kind of thrilled with how it turned out. I was I've never just dry brushed a model to OSL, and now I'm I would have never done this any other time, and yesterday I had the time to do it. So
good for you, man.
Yeah, well, thank you. So I kind of want to start from the beginning. Where did the Kenny from Next Level Painting character kind of come from? Where did you find your voice and your personality? Because you are easily one of the most recognizable people, just by your style, as far as your persona online, and then when you see your models and stuff, you also have a very distinct style. How did you come across that as the next level thing?
Well, 10 years ago we started a commission painting studio, and by we I mean the royal we, me, just me.
Right.
This guy right here. As far as content creation goes, that came later. Okay. I did 6 years of commission painting. I was a commission painter. That was Next Level Painting. That's how we paid bills. And later, the rest of this started just occurring. I always joke, me and my man Rob, 10 years ago when we got together on this whole thing, we had blogs, dude. People still use that term, yo, check out this blog. And I was like, ain't no such thing as a fucking blog, dude. Like, that's not a thing anymore. It's a website, but we use it for the same reasons, and maybe we make more money at it. Because you remember back in those days, Blogspot, you put your shit up there, and then you can roll some Google ads, and you can get some money.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how that shit worked. And we had blogs, and mainly just to show off what we were doing, and galleries. It was just free, man. It was just trying to make shit happen for low overhead. And then one day, blogging was kind of dying, like the whole concept of like a basement nerd taking 2 days to type this really smart article, because like most basement nerds are pretty fucking smart. They're doing a hobby that takes a certain degree of brain power and opinion, you know? And one day people were like, nah, I don't want to read this shit anymore. I want to hear it.
Right.
And that's what we're doing right now, is a podcast, right? And so we were like, or Rob, and friends were like, you heard about these new podcast things? I was like, I don't have an iPod. And he's like, no. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. He's like, oh, internet radio? Come on, man.
Yeah, what? Yeah, I think I said the exact same thing when my friends were like, you should listen to podcasts. It's like, I don't have an iPod. And like, no, you don't understand. I'm like, okay, all right, well, maybe I'll figure it out. And then, yeah, I did a podcast for like 2 years, I think from like 2012 to 2014 or something like that. And it was great. It's a really fun thing to do. How did you get to that point though, that you decided like opening up a painting studio was going to be like the thing to do? Because like you obviously had been in the hobby for a long time, and anybody with a giant chaos star on their arm had better be ride or die in it for the long haul. So
ride or die, homie. Bad boys for life, dude.
When did you figure out that was something that you could do, that something that you did differently? Because in my age doing it, it seems like more often than not, even though there are people who aren't putting any effort into it, it seems like because the world right now is so open and everybody's learning from people like you and all the other content creators, they're like the level of like this is impressing people is like much higher than I think it probably was 10 years ago.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll tell you an anecdote, perhaps I'll blend that in, but essentially, like I'm a commercial artist. Like that's what I've always been. Like I went to school for that. I got my technical degree in commercial art 2 days before I got my high school diploma. I was going to school share time.
Oh, wow.
Like, so, but I've also been an artist my whole life. My dad, identified a passion in me as his child and nurtured that, like many parents do, right? And so I was always doing art, always taking classes. My dad would sign me up for shit I didn't want to do, but he made me do it because he was my fucking dad. And he's like, you're doing this shit.
Sure.
And so I've collected a knowledge base over the years, developmental years as a child, being forced to do things when you have unlimited time as a kid, so I did build a base of knowledge. But when I was being like formally educated, the concept of monetizing your passions was always the first part of that. You're getting a technical trade skill that is about getting a professional paycheck. That's about getting professional wages. Where a lot of my friends who I grew up with as artists were going right to college, they were taking fine art degrees, they were doing this, and it was almost like they were like brainwashing them to like feel shame for that emotion. And we would like talk later, and I'd be like, yo, why you guys all why you guys acting this way? Like, dog, this is America. It's about monetizing your passions is the American dream.
Right.
And so I've always approached art as a means of which to get paid. Because my dad told me, he's like, doesn't matter how weird the thing you do is, whatever you're an expert at, like, you'll get paid for it. Like, that's just how, that's America. So I put a lot of effort into getting good at art and thought I was gonna be a comic book artist. And then when it came time to, fill out the applications and do my trial tests, it turned out I was not even fucking close.
Oh, no.
And I was like, yo, I got this. I'm 19. I've been doing this for years. I draw 10,000 hours a year or 1,500 hours a year. And I was like, I got this. They were like, do 4 pages, turn it in tomorrow at 3. And I was like, that's literally impossible, dog. It'll take me 6 months. They're like, you're not ready. So then I kind of just, get good. So I pivoted, and then did a bunch of work. always was trying to be a graphic designer, which I was for years, and floated around, did jobs, poured concrete for 7 years. That was the biggest chunk of my life in one job was concrete. But the whole time I was working graphic design, but I turned my back on it because this is the story right here, is that I was working at a casino slinging burgers in the mountains of Colorado.
Yeah.
In Cripple Creek in Teller County. Side note, in that era, the number one meth county in the country per capita.
Nice.
It was dope. And I'm like, there's an opening. It's a big casino. And there's an opening, and they're like, yo, we're looking for a new art director. But I had the credentials, the portfolio, and the skills. I went in, and they like to promote from within, like first. So I was like, no, this is gonna be dope. Slung my application at them, threw my portfolio down, just saw my credentials. They were like, oh shit, this is gonna be awesome. You have the job. Like, this is it. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, I'm an art director now, like finally, after all these years. And I'm like walking out of the office, and I'm like just casually like, yo, how much is my new paycheck? And they're like, oh, the job starts at $9 an hour. And this is before I started my business. This is like over a decade ago. They're like $9 an hour. I was like, hold on a second. You already pay me $12.50 an hour to make burgers in this, like,
right.
Like, you already pay me more than that to make hamburgers, dog. And they were like, I mean, there's a little, okay, we'll match it, $12.50. Like, we'll give it to you for 12. I was like, nah. Like, I don't want any responsibility for, like, get the fuck out of here, So I got super butthurt. Then eventually, got into construction, was pouring concrete, did that, was very happy with that for years. But during that hardship, right, in the trenches, which I still enjoyed, the creation of projects and the instant gratification of a job well done that day, because that's concrete,
Sure.
I loved it, but it was really hard on me, and the whole time I was thinking about art. Then finally, I think my mom, who is 40K Sue on Facebook, she had an eBay store for like a decade. I used to own a game store, which failed miserably, because in business you're going to fail multiple times. The colloquialism is, at first you don't succeed, try again. It actually says try again. There's 2 tries at least.
Yeah, at least,
She bought my inventory, because like I just had all this crap, and she bought it and got started on eBay, right?
Yeah, she's like, we'll figure this out. We got this.
She hooked me up, right? And in like years, and she did really well on eBay for a while. And then finally she got out of it. She retired and everything. But later she was like, you ever thought about airbrushing? I was like, I remember taking a class on it when I got my graphic design degree in like the late 90s, And she was like, I'll buy you an airbrush. So she bought me like an Aztec plastic airbrush.
Nice.
And I was like, yo, let me see what I can do. I banged out this whole Dark Angels army. Just like did all the greens, did some washes, and I was like, what? I was like, yo, we got this. And so then immediately threw that airbrush in the trash, and then bought a good airbrush. And then I started to give credit to my mom for setting me up on that airbrush. And I started painting models and like for myself. And I was like, this is a game changer. Started figuring it out. And then once I actually did another army for myself, this is just stuff I wanted to do. I was like, I think I might have something here. But the whole time period up to that moment, that was 2010, to all the way back in time, I never stopped playing this game, going to the scene, trying to win tournaments, trying to do the best job I possibly could, painting my models in that era, whatever the era was. Was it ink era? Was it when we discovered washes era? Was it all the way back in the day when it was dry brushing? And then some guy would come with some blended shit and not tell you how he did it era? Was it the era where GW put out this how to paint book that finally explained things? You remember that? Like, literally, which era were you in? No matter what the era was, I was doing the best I could.
Sure.
Then the airbrush was introduced to me, and then it's like kind of a reset. Like, okay, now I have to get good at this. And I thought I was good enough. So, and I was working construction in a capacity in which I could just be like, hey, I'm not available to pour concrete for the next 2 weeks. So I was able at this crossroad say that to the contractor I was subcontracting for. Right. He was like, yeah, it's fine, I'll call somebody else. And I put it out there. I was taking commissions, put up a shitty little block spot. And my first client was a guy named Had, badass, old school friend. I did a Space Wolf Army in 2 weeks. Then my boss was like, or the contractor, which I viewed as my boss, was like, yo, can you pour concrete this week? And I was like, yeah. Came back on Wednesday, pour concrete, got an email. And I hit him up again. I was like, yo, I think I'm gonna be off the grid for 2 more weeks. And that was the last time I talked to him, because then our queue started backing up as I was putting out product. So it kind of happened really fast, right? But the whole time I'm on forums, talking to people, meeting people. So I can't emphasize enough, like, interacting in this community is why it like actually worked.
Sure.
Right? Like, that's why it worked. Because I was talking to people, I was hanging out with people, and a big part of our hobby is a callback to previously we're joking about COVID and like we thought we'd be more prepared for this.
Yeah.
You can't 40K, you can't Age of Sigmar, you can't do it alone.
Right.
The entire end game of every project you start on is to go somewhere and be with somebody with that project. And that has been removed from the table right now, which is also taking away a lot of our motivations. So
it's definitely difficult right now to justify spending like the entire time working on an army. And like, I know I should be like part of, I'm a vanguard for the Parabellum guys on Conquest, Last Argument of Kings. And part of, they want me to like have like a fully painted demo army. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Like, no problem. And I've got like 2/3 of the way through it. I'm like, I am going to mess around on some stuff that is like chicken soup for the soul right now. Like, I do not want to do the repetitions. I'm not doing the marathon stuff. This has all got to be candy for me right now.
It has to be like this. I mean, like, I'm sure, people who listen to this, it's like, I'm sure you've heard it beat over your head a bunch of times during this whole crisis. Like, mental health is an issue. Mental health is an issue. Mental health is a fucking issue.
It's an issue.
And for realsies, and you got to do what you got to do to stay focused. Don't ever beat yourself up because you feel like you're not on task. Do what you need to do with your artwork in that moment to scratch that itch, and kind of suspend all other things, like other elements of it. It can't feel like work to you unless it is your work. Which is, if you're a pro painter listening to this, sorry, that doesn't apply to you. Right. You might need to get online therapy, dog.
The really interesting thing is, so Lynn Stahl had a very similar story. 2009, 2010 is when her business really took off. And I've kind of heard that being kind of this interesting, beginning ramp to what we now know is like the hobby renaissance, because
I know why.
So what happened there? Because like, I was like the farthest thing from the hobby at that point.
So we've been doing this for 10 years, right? And me and Rob, my business partner and best friend, Robert, we've always been real serious about this and always treated it like a job. And to the point where when somebody might question us or ask us for advice, they'd be like, well, how do I get started doing some of this stuff? And we'll say some things, and they'll say, I don't want it to feel like a job. Like, oh, cool, do something else.
Right.
If you don't treat things as jobs or as careers, you won't be good at them. I don't care if it's golf, playing pickup basketball with your friends. If you don't take it seriously, you're not going to do good at it. And don't get it twisted. We all came here to win, no matter what it is we do. So we always took it seriously. And the part of that is like looking back in time, reflecting, why did this work in this time period? Why didn't it? Why did this work Q1 2019, but not Q1 2020? Like, always looking at data. And back in those days, the 2009, 2010 era, back to our earlier point, blogging was shifting to podcasting. And that was really exciting. Mm-hmm. And a lot of podcasts popped up. And that was a really new, exciting way to get people hyped. But also, we were at the height of the forums. The forums were crazy popular. But go step back into it. Why were all these companies booming? Why were these commission houses popping up? Well, that's also the same 24 months that airbrushing hit the scene. Like,
really?
There's a guy, Brandon Palmer, GMM Studios. He's the godfather, dude. Like people, if you don't know who he is, that makes sense. He's never really been addicted to social media or anything like that, but he's probably the most prolific single entity commission painter in the planet.
Really?
His workflow and what he's able to do as a single human is incredible. It's superhuman. But he literally was using an airbrush the whole fucking time. And then people were starting to figure it out, and he was talking about it. And he's actually one of the guys who told me to buy like an Awada Eclipse like 10 years ago. So then airbrushing hit the scene. Then you got this whole new thing to hate on. for like half a decade of just fuck airbrushing.
Right.
It's too airbrushing. So now you got this whole new hot topic, right? And as you know about anything in the modern era, like that was just a precursor to how internet is.
Right.
That's just, so it was happening way back then. And then the final piece of the puzzle, 5th edition 40K. We were transitioning to 5th edition 40K. And 5th edition 40K was all about min-max. It was all about a shitload of Razorbacks and Rhinos and the smallest amount of infantry to support that. That is a commission painter's dream, but a layman's or a casual painter's nightmare.
Sure. Yeah, totally.
Like they don't want to paint Rhinos in big ass box tanks because like they don't know how to airbrush, right? And only these experts knew how to airbrush. So it's a dream to quote somebody on a commission where they're like, I want 6 Razorbacks that can be Rhinos and literally exactly 5-man squads that go in all of those. I want 30 guys, 2 HQs, and 6 box tanks. And we're like, okay, well, too easy, because those box tanks were the easiest. Like a Rhino is so easy to airbrush and paint. So it was like crazy ramping up. So now people's galleries are getting huge army pictures. I painted this in 2 weeks. It was changing the world, which only fueled the hate. Because you know what somebody doesn't want to fucking see on DACA.com in 2010? When they just posted their Blood Angels army with 4 Rhinos and 25 guys and 2 HQs, and they're like, I finally finished. And it's like 2 years ago, it's meta. Right. They're like, I finally finished it. It's done. And then like right after that, KDB Shane Next Level Painting, boom, just finished this in 10 days. Check this shit out. It's like 68 dudes, 22 chain chassis. And then it's like, no matter how good it looks, it's like, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Oh no, totally.
You know what I mean?
I have definitely felt that feeling. I mean, like I'm a musician, and I remember when like all the kids like my age, we would like learn a Metallica song, and all we had was like tabs. And these young kids, when I was selling guitars, they would come in to Guitar Center and they'd be like doing like sweep arpeggios and shit. And I'm like, yeah, fuck you guys. I've only been doing this for 14 years. You could suck my dick.
Yeah, I feel it, you know, and it's exactly the same thing. It's the same parallel, you know, like, and then, but now we have accessibility, right? Now that we're in 2020, it's a little different, right?
Sure. The
market's a little bit more competitive, but there's still enough like clients in the ocean of commission painting that there's enough room for almost infinite studios. That really hasn't changed. What's changed is accessibility and knowledge. So it's not like these 5 mystical gurus who can airbrush. It's literally anyone can airbrush.
Right.
Watch a video on YouTube. You will learn how to airbrush pretty quickly. You know what I mean?
Well, so when I first started, I've actually only been doing it for a couple of years. And I've had friends doing it for forever. I was always more of like the collectible card game guy, you know, and like just playing video games. And as soon as I saw all the monsters from Kingdom Death, I was like, shit. Oh my God, this is what I need. I need this in my life. Oh, yeah. And as soon as like my first thing, I didn't get into 40K. I didn't buy a little 5-man squad to test it out. I bought fucking the Kingdom Death Monster starter and like a couple of the expansions. You know, I was like $600 into this thing. It's like, I better get.
I've got 2 boxes in my garage I haven't even opened yet because of the shame.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so I started finding your videos on YouTube and like learning like how to thin paints to work through the airbrush, because I didn't instantly think like, oh, I should buy airbrush paint, like if that was going to be my focus. And so I've learned almost everything from how I hobby from your videos, essentially, you know, from just the stuff that I need to buy to keep the stuff maintenance to you know, like the flow improver from Vallejo. It's amazing stuff. And, yeah,
I mean, back in the old days we were like, just get some alcohol and water, and now I'm like, that is the literal opposite of what you want to happen. Yeah, but we didn't know better. We didn't know what the fuck we were doing back in those days, you know?
Well, it's been really impressive watching your content over the years, And like I basically watched like 4 years of YouTube in like 6 months because you know, you just get ravenous on it. And it was funny because like my wife would come home from work and she would hear you talking and she's like, is that professional wrestler again? I was like, yeah, it's Kenny, it's good. And I was able to do so much interesting stuff right off the bat to where like people started asking me very early on, and me doing it, if I could paint their stuff for them. So I instantly started taking commissions, which was probably for my emotional state the worst thing to do, but I couldn't have done that without your videos.
That makes me happy to hear. And that's what's interesting about this whole market is that if you're thinking about being a pro painter, it's always about timing, right? Like, and if you have the moment in your life to do it, I do like private lessons on my Patreon page, and a lot of people think all I do is coach on painting, but like I just got off the line with a guy who's starting his commission studio.
Oh, awesome!
Because there's this crossroads that's happening right now for a lot of people with this crisis, where they can put some serious effort into it and pursue that and follow that passion and see if they're right for it. Because here's the thing. There is someone who wants to pay you to paint models no matter how good you think you are.
Oh, absolutely.
Like there's somebody who's willing, because it's infinite scale, it's infinite techniques and styles. And I always encourage every human to monetize a passion and pursue something. You don't have to be a master painter to sell art. You don't.
Right.
You just have to provide a service. If you're more service oriented, be more service oriented. If you're more artistically oriented, you do single minis, do the best single minis in the world. And it's always inspirational or inspiring for me to hear people say what you just said to me. Like that makes me super fucking happy to hear, man.
Well, and especially since you have seemed to, like, YouTube may have been like a lot of like my group of people's introduction to you, even though it's, you know, you have a much longer history in the hobby.
Oh yeah, YouTube came years later. Like YouTube was like, and like, you know, to the earlier commercial art statement, YouTube was like literally just like exposed. It was an advertisement, dude. Like we were like, me and Robert, like, yo, we got, because we were bloggers, and then they were like, what's this new podcast thing? And then it was like, yo, you heard about like doing videos on YouTube? I feel like we got to do that now. And then later we were like, yo, what's that live shit, Twitch? You know what I'm saying? I had a sticky note on my computer monitor. It was like Twitch ? It was there for like a year before I was like, fine. I pulled it off and I was like, what the fuck is this?
What is this thing?
But it shows you the evolution of like people were down to comfortably read very concise, editorialized content about painting and tactics in this game. And then later they didn't want to, they wanted to hear it. And it shows you that kind of where we are. And then we wanted to see it too and hear it. And then we wanted to see it happen in full in front of us live, which is funny because first it was like you didn't have enough time to read something, tell it to me on the way to work. And then we kind of went backwards where it's now you got to schedule your time around my time and stay here for 3 hours and watch me do it live. So it's interesting how that occurred, but then how each one of those groups is somewhat self-contained and has their own communities with some crossover between the others. So me and Rob are trying to stay on top of whatever the new thing is. And YouTube was literally, let's put out the content that we have and advertise our painting service in a way to strengthen our economic stability and have more money, right? And that was the goal. And then later, I quit commission painting and dedicated myself to instructional videos.
So you no longer do commission painting at all?
No.
I can't say I blame you. That is sometimes the like most thankless job that you can do. You're like, I put all this time into this thing, and then, you know, it's hard not to like get wrapped up in it, even though it's a piece of plastic with some acrylic paint on it. Like you want to do a good job for some people, and you know, when you don't get the reaction that you want, like, you know, I'm a custom picture framer, and I'll work for hours getting the design up, and you know, then it takes hours to build the thing. And sometimes, you know, at the end, people are like, oh, okay, and you just watch them kind of like chuck it in the back of your car, and you're like, really? Well, at least I made money off of it, but really.
and that's a big thing. Is like two things were occurring for me to make that decision, right? Well, maybe three. One of them was a big move, big cross country move from North Carolina to California. And that takes a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
That was only possible because of my lady, my 7.5 year girlfriend, Bonet. She was like, we got to get the fuck out of here. This place sucks. I was like, yeah, it does. Like,
it's gonna kill me.
And which is funny because she's in film and she writes and directs, and she was taking a break from the whole scene, and we were out there. I was out there for painting and being close to my people and stuff. And then their filming set kind of dried up, and there was nothing for her to do. She did a couple things, but she was like literally working at restaurants and working at 2 different bars at the same time, just trying to save us money.
Yeah.
Because she was like, let's move back to California. And I was like, man, we don't got that kind of money. That's just like, I Googled some stuff. I was like, it's like $10,000.
Yeah.
I was like, we don't got that. We don't got that. She's like, how long will it take to save that? I was like, 10 years? I don't fucking know. Like, we don't, like, that's not a number we can hit. And she was like, okay, so what you're telling me is we need 10 G's, got it. And then she went out, hustled her ass off, and wrote a script for production out there. And they were doing union minimums, but they couldn't afford a union minimum on it. So she deferred the payment, and all she required up front was $10,000.
Nice.
And she came back to me. She's like, well, this dude. And I was like, God damn it. And so then we were on the road to California, right?
Yeah.
And so that was a big thing. Like, I put myself in a situation where I was no longer comfortable. Right?
Yeah.
So not being comfortable is really important to growth. So I was feeling really anxious about where my business was and how it was really a comfortable business and it wasn't really an innovative business. And I was looking at how I felt about just, the endless task orientation and lack of like artistic like love for the commission process at my 6th year of doing it. Mm-hmm. And then I was also looking at my bank account and I was like watching it go down. And then I'm like adding up, how much money did I make this month? How many hours did I work to make that month? Oh, don't look at it. It's so bad, And I was like, so all of those kind of came together where I wasn't feeling it anymore. The passion wasn't there. And you always got to, if it's not something you're passionate about, don't fucking do it.
Right.
Because you're not going to do it well. That's the thing. And so I was just discovering Twitch. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to stream my commissions. At least it's a twofer. And then like within 30 days, I was like, nope, I want to do it like it's its own thing, and I want to instruct.
Yeah.
And then I made this huge risk where I closed up shop, where I was like, I think if I go full force on this, which I'm really into right now, I'm really passionate about this. And I think if I go full force on this, I can make it at least as valuable as what we were doing with commissions. It's a risk. It's a huge risk because you're leaving X on the table for an unknowable, but you need it to be equal to original X, So it's like, all right. And we busted our asses. We made it happen. We took some risks, and then we got it to stabilize. And my mental health improved. My passion was reinvigorated. It made me take a second look at my process, my whole platform, what I do. I wasn't comfortable financially anymore because I live in fucking Los Angeles and it's super expensive out here.
Oh yeah.
And so I kind of slowly shifted everything over to more instructional, not just like a YouTube video and a commission that was about a commission.
Right.
It was literally like, let's just take some hard looks at some notable techniques. Let's send people to Patreon. There's more and more in there. Let's send people to Twitch where we do it live. And then let's open up our private classes and our weekly webinars. And here we are in 2020. That was 4 years ago where I do like literally like on a Wednesday, I'm like cutting a tactics video, cutting a webinar, cutting a podcast, distributing your podcast. It's my favorite day of the week because I get to use everything I have figured out with Rob in the last decade, all in one fucking day. It is the most rewarding and ultimately passionate day that I get to have. But even like on a Tuesday, I get to live stream. On a Thursday, I get to cut a studio video. On a Friday, I get to live stream. On a Saturday, I get to live stream, and then teach classes all in between. It's just like endless fulfillment, interacting, doing social things, and fucking helping people find their path, whatever it may be, to success, whether it's just to be a better artist, to get their army on the tabletop for this tournament in 2 weeks, or to become a content creator themselves.
Well, it seems really cool that you have been so flexible. I mean, you and Rob both have been that flexible to understand that. And I think one of the things that like breaks my heart is, when I listen to like the Long War podcast, and Rob's always likes to keep it fairly PG, even though I'm pretty sure behind closed doors he's got
every time you can get him to say fuck, it's awesome.
Yeah,
an angel gets its wings.
Right. And you know that it's got to be there, but he's the all-American man, and it's so great seeing him be like this, like, we're gonna be positive, we're gonna be good, and you're like, fuck it, we don't get anything from this thing, we're just gonna be ourselves. And it's really interesting to see those dichotomies work together, because I find your guys' banter to just like, I don't even really play 40K anymore, but I actually really love listening to you guys talk about 40K, because you're passionate about it, you're having fun, you can tell that you're friends, and it's really funny when you can just hear Rob like cringe, like, oh my God, we just said that. And also watching him try to explain Adeptus Titanicus to you guys. And I know that he's probably just done that conversation with you so many times, and it just like, it cracks me up every single time.
I love Mr. Rob Bear. I like to tease him and call him the most famous man of 40K.
He really is, and sometimes I think the most hated man in 40K.
Oh,
and
I
feel
that's the same person. Yeah,
it's the same person, and I feel so bad for him, because he seems to be like totally genuine.
Let me hear you. Yeah. Want to talk about super nice, cares about things. He's very logical. He's an engineering background. The way he puts things together is very smart, intelligent, and a lot of times he's on guard because he's been fucked by people. Like people
I'm sure
have torn him down before, and so he's very reserved with his love and emotions. But like to his friends, we know him as like generous, always got your back, kind, smiles, very charming, like also like 6'3", like.
Oh, he's tall.
Yeah, 6'3", well dressed,
and anywhere between like 30 to like 750 years old. You just don't know, because he looks exactly the same as he has. Like, he hasn't aged at all.
The Dorian Gray of miniatures. He's got a miniature that ages in his closet somewhere that he can't look at. Takes all his age. Not like but he's, like with him. We've been friends for so long. That's where like our banter is. We've definitely had our fights over the years, but it's always like, I always say, like, people are like, don't go into business with your friends. That's like a known, thing people say, I guess. I'm like the opposite. I'm like, always go into business with your friends, because business will show you your friends really are.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It's the quickest way to discover that truth. And me and Rob have discovered ride or die, bad boys for life, all day, every day. And we made a decision a long time ago that the podcast, like, we used to have commercials, we used to do sponsor stuff on the podcast. Nope. We took it all out. We're like, we will choose to talk about things that we like, and you can't pay us to talk about them. Like, we used to accept money for that, but we got rid of that. Like, we're like, if we like it, we'll talk about it. And since no money is changing hands, then we like it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think the Long War has taken, like, this especially since you got Wyatt on, it has seemed to have a really good, solid flow. And you guys, the four of you, have this great sort of back and forth. It isn't confusing anymore who's on the show. The Would You Rathers to get everybody warmed up is just like such a great thing to start on. And it feels actually way more accessible, because I've heard like women say that like they aren't really comfortable getting into like the Long War because they don't like all the like fart and dick jokes for like a million years. And while I think the Would You Rathers are still very gross, they are more scientific feeling.
We break it down. I mean, I personally, it's always my goal to try to bring something back to poop. That's
right?
Just me. My Boneas had to deal with that for 7 years. She's like, why is it always about poop? Because poop is fucking hilarious. That's why.
Poop is hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious.
It is super funny. Dicks are also hilarious. Just look at them. Look how dumb they look. Like,
they are on the outside of our bodies. Who designed that?
Yeah. obviously ridiculous. It's a cosmic joke, and you have to laugh at it.
It's like the duckbill platypus.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're running out of time, so I did really quick want to do my would you rather that I did for Wyatt, and it doesn't have to do with dicks, poops, or toenails. This is the cosmic question. Would you rather GW stick with all of these amazing, like, fully rendered models that we've been getting, which are just like some of the most special pieces, but the actual game system progressively just stays as broken as it is and never gets fixed? Or they go back to the monopose metal models where all you do is you're painting a stupid squat ass Marine, but the rules are beautiful, they're updated, they're balanced, they're online, they're in a book that's magic, but you only get the monopose models.
I'd take the Sickass Models in the shit game. Not, I mean, well, and I'm a gamer first.
Sure.
I'm a painter second. Always have been, which is also something probably unique to my perspective and my brand, is that I've always been a competitive player first and foremost.
Yeah.
But I would sacrifice GW's shit game. Have it be like, and I love the game now more than I've ever loved it before, but it would actually, if we had the sickest models in the game, but this game system was just basically DOA now, that means somebody else would swoop in and pick it up. And we would all have the sickest models and the sickest game.
And the sickest game.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I would take that because I think that path will lead to the best. Whereas like GW being the most innovative model making company in the game today, it'd take a long time before somebody catches up to where they are with their system.
Oh,
and with their plastics, with what they're able to put down on the table, with like these AOS minis and shit like that. Like it's literally preposterous. Like nobody's. This is why we get so heated about Forge Worlds on our podcast, because it's just like, that's like 20 years ago shit, guys. Nothing looks good. It's all garbage. Every boutique third-party person and every STL file on the internet looks better.
Yeah, it's crazy that Forge World is still a thing, and because
it's a license to print money. It's literally, that's all it is. That's why they don't care about customer service, or they have customer service but not quality control, because for a nickel's worth of resin and a $300 price tag, they're willing to just send you another nickel's worth of resin to shut you up. They don't care. Why would they spend 40,000 pounds a year on a quality control department when they're just going to send you a nickel's worth of resin to fix the problem? Why would they pump anything else into that? Because there's always going to be a market for someone to go in there and think they're getting some luxury shit. And their numbers are gone down in a lot of years, but it's like, it's still free money to them.
Right.
There's literally no incentive to change what they're doing. They have no, even with the black market. Okay, fine, it cut into our free money bag.
Right.
It's still the free money bag.
Just the other day in the St. Louis Warhammer group, someone was like, I just got a bonus from work. I can't wait to hit up that Forge World site. And I about like, my jaw fell to the ground. I was like, what world are we living in right now? Did we just go into like a time loop and we're like 15 years in the past?
For every 10 of us who believe what we believe about Forge World, there's one guy who just got his bonus and is willing to spend it all on Forge World. And that's what they're...
It's it's a beautiful thing, and I don't kink shame, if that's your thing, if you like pitted models, if it gets you going, like, dude, you do you. But I was floored by that one because it was not done out of like irony. He was 100% serious. I would have been
like, good joke, lol.
Yeah, I was like,
serious.
Dude, same. You could spend the same amount of money over at Creature Caster and get, like double the models that are going to blow you away with some of the best customer service that you've ever, like, it's just like, okay.
Yeah, and with all this 3D printing, like, I mean, shit, every model I've ever gotten from like Titan Forge, or Wyatt has been printing some sick models. Rob has been printing models. Like, like these, I'm like, every single thing that those guys have sent me, all three of those names I just listed, is better than a modern Forge World model.
It's astounding, and it really is the miniature hobby renaissance right now, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it, and I'm thrilled for you to be a part of it, and I love I love watching your content, Kenny, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. But I definitely want to let you get on to the rest of your night. So, because certainly we could sit here and talk and bullshit 40K
all day, every day. I mean, we've been ships in the night for some time now.
Yeah.
And so I was grateful to have this opportunity today as well. And anyone out there listening to this, just know that this shit will end and we will get through all this shit. But I recommend you learn something new today, man. Figure something else out that you never figured out before, man. You know, try something. Like that's what this time is about. It's not about like going back to a task you've been putting off for 6 months and doing it. Fuck that. That's a chore.
Right.
Something new.
Yeah.
Do something crazy.
It's all about getting your mental health pointing in the right direction, and that is what this hobby has given me, and I'm finding it to be true for all my friends as well right now, which I'm thrilled about. Some of them are putting out some of the best work I've ever seen them do. It's a fucking exciting time to be a part of this, and I'm ready to get my community back and get some games on the table, because I, like you, also like it's all about playing games. Like while I don't like playing an unpainted army, I will play an unpainted army. Like I just want to get some fucking reps in. I like rolling dice and I like losing. I don't even care. Like I like it. It's a good time.
Playing is the ultimate culmination. It's the final destination of this great hobby that started with looking at a cool picture on a codex, reading all about it, buying these models, building them, struggling through it, talking to friends, scheming in your Beats lab, learning tactics. And then one day you went somewhere and lost a whole bunch of games. And then you did that a few times in a row. And then you started winning a bunch of games. And then finally you went to a big ass trade show. You went to a big convention. Got to stay there all weekend, meet some new people, meet up with some old friends. And now you realize what there is. You know, like what this community is about. And that is the final destination. No matter where you are in your journey, trust me, that's where you're going to end up. And it's a great place. And we don't have that right now. So that's rough. But yeah, it's coming back. It's coming back.
Oh, I feel it, man. Where should people find you? Your Patreon and Twitch seem to be the main things now. What are we doing there?
Google me.
Google.
You'll see it. That's just teasing. I was trying to go with a Ron Burgundy quote there.
I love it.
But no, literally just Kenny Bichet on Facebook. All roads lead everywhere. Literally, if Facebook is your thing, YouTube is your thing, doesn't matter. Just Next Level Painting or my name, you'll find me. You'll see the pictures. We make it easy.
Perfect. Well, I'll send people your way, man. And again, Kenny, thank you so much for talking with me tonight. I really appreciate it.
Much love, homie.
Awesome, man. Take it easy. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Hobby Time in the Murder Basement. I so appreciate your support. If you want to see more hobby content, hop on over to twitch.tv/Heath Aldrich to see all of your fun hobby content streaming whenever I get a free chance. If you like listening to these episodes in more of a podcast form, I should be on all of your favorite podcasting apps. Make sure that you like and subscribe to me there. If you can, leave me a 5-star review. I'd really appreciate it. Have a nice rest of your day, and we'll be talking to you soon.